I think this matchup with DDP versus Izzy. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a little, a teaser. If Izzy doesn't go out there and if Izzy isn't able to disrupt DDP's plotty, how DDP, he comes there and he goes southpaw to orthodox. If Izzy cannot disrupt that, and if Izzy doesn't take the fight to him, I think it's going to be a long night for Izzy.
When you get to that position where you are so comfortable, where he said he's at peace, he's happy with what he has, it's a dangerous place to be at, because this sport is chaos, and chaos is the exact opposite of peace.
Yeah.
And if you're at peace and you get into the octagon with me, it's going to be a problem, because I bring chaos.
In my personal view, because he beat me before, and I want that rematch. I want to rematch him. Obviously, that's not what I'm thinking about at the moment. Dricus is on a list of people I want to rematch. But seeing that fight from him, it made me realize that I did not prepare adequately for him. I did not give him the respect he deserves. I understand he was a hard and tough fighter, but I don't think I understood how tough and strong and hungry he really was. Yeah. And respect to that.
Isn't it weird when you watch Du Plessis and then it kind of makes sense? That's what happened for me. When I watched him fight Robert Whittaker, for so long I felt like, well, what's his plan? Like, what's he doing? Like, is he just freestyling? It made sense in the Whittaker fight. I was like, okay, now I can see. I have a better understanding of what he's doing. Now I know that he has a purpose and he's doing things in a way that he intends to do them. And I feel like that's why you go, okay, now I appreciate Dricus, because now it kind of becomes clear to you, wow, this dude really does or has developed a fighting style that works for him.
In terms of Dricus du Plessis' style, there have been a lot of professional fighters who have publicly or privately criticized him and said, oh, he's not very good. And, certainly there are things that maybe are undeniable. The footwork is awkward and unorthodox and maybe just a little bit sloppy. He is an offensive force. He is an offensive fighter that prioritizes offense. He prioritizes finishes, right? Doesn't have a lot of decision wins. This was the first time he had realized a fourth round. And I think a lot of his style is something that is rooted in South African culture. And I might lose some people here, but part of his martial arts style is rooted in just straight desire and will.
Or you look at all his fights, he never really backs up. He back up a little bit, then he goes right back to the edge of the void, stays at the edge of the void, high guard, switches to southpaw or orthodox, throws a kick, and goes forward.
Like Du Plessis is, he's well conditioned. He fights well when he's tired. Sometimes I don't know whether he's tired or not because of how kind of awkward his style is. He seems to be able to thrive when he's fatigued, and that might be necessary in this fight. But I also feel like the times when Du Plessis is fatigued, he's also pushed his opponent to the stage where they're quite fatigued as well. And because he dwells better in that fatigue space, he tends to capitalize.
His awkwardness, even though it looks awkward for Dricus, it's still calculated. It's not like he throws things from weird angles, but you could see him making adjustments, making things look like this, going a bit longer, adding things onto certain combos he did earlier in the fight.
Mate, he's tough, isn't he? He's awkward.
He really is.
Like, he was throwing overhands, left overhands, right overhands, from the start to the finish. He was switching stances constantly. Spent as much time as southpaw as he did orthodox, which got to give him credit for, because he did well in those stances. He had attacks. He landed head kicks on Strickland several times. It's he's such a big, strong, awkward guy to fight, but he can fight well. You have to give him that.
Like, there are certain fighters that have wars, and there are certain fighters that create circuses. Like Julian Erosa is another fighter. Julian doesn't have wars. I call those circuses, because you're just like, what the hell's happening? Like, things start going, he starts doing weird stuff. Like, he's a circus guy. And I think Dricus is a circus guy, man. Like, I would never hold Dricus up as the pinnacle of kickboxing technique, like a technical kickboxer. But it's just weird. He's running at you. It's almost like angry flailing. And it's like feral almost, but it creates a circus.
People go look at my style and they go this guy looks like a gorilla on roller skates. He's sloppy. But that is this way I train. That is the way we do it. And that is not just that is how we have our style, and then we believe is superior. And we believe in that system because I believe in my coaches 100% in what we do. And winning that title just proved that we are not just hanging with the best. We are now the best on planet Earth in my weight division. And the style that we've invested in and believed in, my coaches and my team, it was all worth it, and we were right. And now you can believe in your system even more. And that self-belief you get that from that, it gave me that almost that stamp of approval of what we've been doing. And my whole team feels the exact same way now.
I'll tell you this, man. I never thought that we'd be here today with Dricus du Plessis as the middleweight champion of the world. I didn't know. But as he told me earlier in the week, and as I now understand, he does things his own way. And I am learning, even though I've been in this game for a long time, that all mixed martial arts doesn't look the same. Sometimes it looks different, and Dricus du Plessis looks different. But as I now have gained an appreciation for his style, I know what it looks like to me now. It looks like a champion of the world.
Du Plessis, who was an undercard fighter, who was not in the top 10, who was never in a discussion to be a star, to be a draw, to be a press conference hit, to be somebody sponsors wanted to get behind, to be a guy that was going to get 7-figure checks, be one of the very few guys to be put in a position where when he retires from the sport, he can choose moving forward what he does with his time. Nobody had Du Plessis there, except for Du Plessis.
You know, my first amateur world title, I fought for a K1 world title in Slovakia when I was 18 years old. And that's for a South African, that was also unheard of, impossible. They said it won't happen. Even South Africa, the coaches in South Africa said that's not happening because we just don't compete at the level that these guys do. And I made it happen. I became a junior world champion.
And then you factor into the equation that he defeated an entire Gracie Barra team in a quintet match. He had a guillotine, a one-arm guillotine, a north-south choke, a Darce choke, and he won the other match on points. He took out an entire team of Gracies.
I think what we run into sometimes with Du Plessis is the aesthetics of his style. It doesn't look the same. It doesn't look like what we're used to looking at. It's hard to break down. It's hard to even be an analyst for. His body language says I'm exhausted, but the way that he is fighting still doesn't really change. So I think maybe some of that's on us. Maybe we need to get used to what we're looking at and just accept that maybe the fighting style isn't changing, even if the aesthetics does make him look tired.
And yeah, it may not look pretty. It's not what a coach or, some kind of online tutorial would tell you to do specifically from an execution standpoint. It might even look a little bit sloppy, but it doesn't matter because the way he's able to put it all together allows him to win rounds. And I would argue for people who are in the sport, for people who have trained in MMA or jiu-jitsu, the most difficult guy to deal with oftentimes is that guy who is not moving at a rhythm or a pace or in a way that you are used to. I would much prefer to go against, in many cases, someone who is highly technical, who I could read their patterns and movements really well, something that I'm used to, as opposed to someone who I have no idea what they're going to do next. And Dricus brings that. Again, not the prettiest thing, but it doesn't have to. Sometimes in combat, it doesn't have to be pretty. You just got to get it done.
I don't think 30% is going to be what people see. I think they're going to look at it and say, wow, this is 100% better fighter. This fight for me is going to put me in that position. This is where I take over as one of the greatest to ever do it. This is where my years of building and climbing that ladder is coming to a point where I am now the guy that's one of the greatest to ever do it.